What's up, everybody? This is Breaking the Huddle. I'm Joel Klatt. This show, as always, is brought to you by Dr. Pepper. It is the one fans deserve. Lots to get into today. First of all, that was an epic weekend last weekend of college football, and it was one that we all loved and enjoyed, certainly. Okay, I've got my new top 10 coming in today's show. Some changes in there that I think you'll be interested in. I've also got my revised Heisman list and film to show you why the top three guys are the top three guys, and you're going to want to stick around for that. I'm going to talk with Kyle Whittingham, the Utah head coach, before we get out of here. So a lot to get into. Let's dive right in. Let's see the top 10 as I see them currently right now in the middle of October. Utah is going to be my 10th ranked team, and let me just stop there really quickly, because at 5-2, a lot of people are scoffing at, like, why is Utah in the top 10? Well, you know how I've always done this. This is a snapshot in time. And the bottom line is, I just don't think that there's 10 better teams than Utah out there. I understand they're 5-2. They dominated Florida to a large extent in that one loss in the opener and lost the game because they didn't execute inside the 5-yard line. And I'm not saying that that's an excuse or should be forgotten, but I am saying that that's a really tough team to play, and I think that we saw that last Saturday night when they were able to beat USC and Caleb Williams. All right, as we move forward, TCU is going to be 9. At 8, I've got Ole Miss, and both of those teams, you know what? I'm not sure of. I don't know if they've got staying power. I think that both of them do good things offensively, but we'll see how it moves for them going forward. UCLA is going to be number 7. Chip Kelly is doing a heck of a job. Every year that he's been there, they've gotten better from a winning percentage standpoint. And in fact, if you look at road games for UCLA under Chip Kelly, in his first 13, they were like 3-10, and then in his last 7, they're 6-1. So they're getting better where it's important. The ability to run the ball, play quality quarterback, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson is certainly doing that. And I think they actually win this week at Oregon, and they would be set up really well in the Pac-12 if they were able to get that done. Okay, and then the top 6, everyone's going to have some version of this in the top 6. I've got Alabama at number 6 because they're the only one in this top 6 that has a loss. I think that that's pretty clear. Then we get into the top 5. I've got Clemson at number 5. I still don't really know about Clemson, and I don't think we will know about Clemson maybe until the playoff, because that conference is just not that difficult. And they've got Syracuse in a game in which I think that they're going to win and probably cover the 13.5 that they're favored by. Then in the top 4, I've got Michigan at 7-0 at number 4. Really love what they're doing on the ground, and in particular on defense. Then you go into the Georgia 7-0. I've got Tennessee at 6-0, and then I've got Ohio State. Some people scoffing at, like, how is Tennessee not number 1? They've got the best win in the country. Yes, they do, but I don't think they're the best team in the country. They're certainly not as balanced as Ohio State. And while Ohio State has not played the level of competition that Tennessee has, and I will give you that, Tennessee does not have a good enough defense, maybe to even win the SEC championship, much less a national championship. That's a defense that is 129th in pass defense, 104th in total defense. Like, you can't do that and be a great team. You have a great win. I've got my questions whether they can even beat Georgia. I did put them again above Georgia, but not Ohio State, who I've got number 1, because that's a team that's top 10 in defense and total defense, scoring defense, passing defense, rushing defense, yards per play defense, and I think they're the best offense in America. So there you go. That's why I've got Ohio State number 1 and Tennessee number 2. All right, coming up, I'm going to have what I am really excited about, which is a film breakdown of my top Heisman contenders. What makes them great and what will give them the ability to potentially win the Heisman Trophy. That is all coming up when we come back right here on Breaking the Huddle. All right, welcome back into the program, Breaking the Huddle. I'm Joel Klatt. Let's talk about Heisman because the race is starting to heat up, in particular after last week when Hendon Hooker just put on a show in that victory for Tennessee over Alabama, and that certainly vaulted him up. I thought before last week it was kind of clearly C.J. Stroud in the lead, and now it's a nice little 2-horse race, and maybe even 3. So let's get into it. Let's look at the way that I see it as of right now. Okay, these are my top 6, and before I go through some of these 6, I do want to just give a shout-out to other names that I was considering for this. Guys like Max Duggan at TCU, DJ Uiagalelei at Clemson, Cam Rising at Utah after that performance. I thought that he should garner a little bit of a mention. Drake May at North Carolina, Sam Hartman at Wake, Chase Brown at Illinois, what he's doing on the ground. Those are other names that I considered, but I landed on these 6. And the guys at 6 and 5, although they lost last week, man, it wasn't because they didn't play well. Caleb Williams and Bryce Young were unbelievable in both of those matchups, USC falling to Utah and Alabama falling to Tennessee. So they're still going to stay there. And when it comes to Heisman's, you've got to understand that really 2 things make a Heisman winner: great play and big stages. And so at least in to this part in the season, both of these guys have played great, but on their biggest stages so far, they've fallen short. Bryce Young, even though he had that great performance against Texas, Tennessee, they aren't able to win the game, and then USC with Utah. At number 4, I've got Dorian Thompson Robinson. I think that when people see that, they're surprised, and it's not just because they're undefeated. It's really because he's right now playing the best in the Pac-12. One of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's got a dual threat aspect to his game that I really love. I think he's throwing the ball better than he has ever in his career. He's averaging 5.5 yards per carry on the ground and giving them a threat with his legs. And that team is really good. I think that they're going to win this weekend at Oregon. And because of that, I think that he will continue to stay and maybe even build a case toward the Heisman Trophy. But now we're going to get to the top 3, and I want to take you inside what I was talking about great play, because we understand great stages and big stages, and in particular late in the season, we're going to see those play out. And we understand what it looks like when you play great in those moments. But what does it mean to just be a great player overall? Well, great players do a couple of things, and they do it really well. Great players, when everything is going right, they excel. Okay? So I would say this is you're excelling in the fundamentals and the basics of your offensive or defensive structure, but in these 3 cases, offensive. And then the secondary thing that you have to do to be a great player, an elite player, is that when things don't look good, you've got to be able to play above the X's and O's and make it impossible for the opposition to be right. So let's take a look at these top 3 guys on my list: Blake Corum, Hendon Hooker, and CJ Stroud. And I want to give you an example of exactly what I mean and what that looks like on the field. Let's start with Blake Corum at Michigan. Okay, so this is last week against Penn State. And right here, what you've got is you've got 7 offensive players and 7 defensive players in the run front. So you can block everybody. So this is an advantageous time to run the ball. And as you get this seal from the tight end, everybody's covered up. So from Blake Corum's perspective, the fundamentals and the basics of their system are great. And then he excels, right? So he doesn't get caught. When it's blocked for 8, he takes it to the house. So he's a plus runner. From a running back perspective, being a plus runner means if it's blocked for 4, you gain 8. If it's blocked for 8, you go the distance. And that was an example right there. The fundamentals and structure of the offense were perfect, and he takes it the distance. So when everything is right, can you excel? Can you be great? And that's clearly an example of it. Now, you've also got to be great when it's not advantageous. When the defense is winning, can you still make your offense right? Are you impossible to defend? Let's take a look at that. Here, Blake Corum is going to get this kind of a wide kind of stretch play from the shotgun, and I want you to see how great the defense is from Penn State. They play this perfectly and have him dead to rights behind the line of scrimmage. Abdul Carter right here, number 11, he's going to miss a tackle. This is behind the line of scrimmage. So they should have a tackle for loss. They've got 2 guys right there. He breaks both tackles, and it ends up being a 15-yard gain. So here the defense did everything right, and Blake Corum went above the X's and O's, and he's just better than everybody on the field. It should be a 2-yard loss. At best for Michigan, it should be a 3-yard gain, maybe a 2-yard gain. He takes it for 15. So when everything's perfect and the offensive line does their job, he's taking it to the house. When nothing's perfect, he can still give you an explosive play. That's why Blake Corum is number 3 on my Heisman list right now. And obviously, he's been a workhorse for them. He's gotten a lot of carries and he's gotten a lot of production, but it's even more than that as example of what I just showed you. All right, let's take a look at the same kind of concept for Hendon Hooker. So when everything is right, can you excel? Well, right here, they're in the red zone, and what he's going to do is give a little play fake in the backfield, and he's going to see this safety that's coming down from his safety spot. So what does he got to do? Set up on time and deliver a strike to the skinny post behind him. And he does that. Boom! A missile right on the face mask, and it's a touchdown for Tennessee. So he's not doing anything extravagant above the X's and O's. He's operating within the system. He's being a game manager, and part of that game management is fake, eyes up, see the safety, turn, and throw a missile right on the face mask for a touchdown. But can you go above the X's and O's? Well, let's take a look at that. Sometimes a quarterback has just got to make a throw that nobody can defend, and this is an example. It's a slot fade right here, and Hendon Hooker is going to throw this ball 55 yards in the air. Look at the arc, first of all, and then the wide receiver doesn't break stride. You can't defend that. I don't care what corner is covering right there. When he throws a 55-yard go route in the air, and the wide receiver does not break his stride. That's incredible stuff. Like mind-blowing stuff right there. So within the offense and above the X's and O's. Let's take a look at C.J. Stroud. So these guys, by the way, they could be 1A, 1B right here. I think that these two guys are just right up there at the top. But C.J. Stroud, does he do these things? So when it's right, are you still making the play? Well, let's take a look. Okay, this is just outside of the red zone. He turns his back, which means he's got to locate the safety. So he flips his head around and he locates the safety, and he's trying to get a post behind the safety. Now, when the safety sinks, what does he do? He replaces him with the in route right on time. And again, look at that. Marvin Harrison doesn't break stride. Is that difficult for a quarterback? No, but he does everything with exquisite timing and accuracy, just like Hooker on the previous play that we just saw. Right on time, ball's thrown accurately, the wide receiver runs right through it. Yak, yards after the catch, is presented with ball placement and timing. It's perfect, and they get a touchdown because of it. All right, let's take a look at his ability to go above the X's and O's now. Now you got Michigan State, and they're actually going to win here. They've got everybody lined up like a blitz. You've got man-to-man coverage, and they get a free rusher. This free rusher should hit him right in the mouth. He should be fading away, throwing this ball away, trying to do something. What does he do? Back foots a dime to Marvin Harrison. That throw is ridiculous. Do you know how difficult it is to make that throw? He's got a guy right in his face, about ready to just drill him right in the chest, and he back foot fades away and puts it in basically a basketball hoop. I just can't. These guys and what they're doing up here, this is so good. It's so good. I get excited when I get to break down this film because of how good these guys have been playing. All right, when we come back, I'm going to talk about Utah and their big win against USC, and I'm going to do it with their head coach, Kyle Whittingham. All right, welcome back, and fresh off that huge win Saturday night for Utah over USC, the head coach of the Utes, Kyle Whittingham, joins the program. Coach, what's going on, man? How are you? And congratulations.
Doing good, Joel, and thank you. Appreciate that. Want a bye week this week, and kind of regrouping and getting some bumps and bruises healed up, and then getting ready to finish off the second half of the season.
Yeah, you guys have a grind. I'm telling you, there's not many teams in the country that have to play 6 true road games, which you guys have to play. It started out at Florida. I'm interested in, if you mind, going back to that. What did you feel like your team learned from that game in the Swamp that maybe has set them up for success here down the road?
Yeah, well, first of all, struggling on defense in that game. The quarterback, we didn't do a good job of keeping the Florida quarterback contained. So there was a few issues in that game. That being said, we were still one play away from winning it. We had that interception deep in the red zone in the last few seconds of the game to not be able to pull it off. But we got a lot of things that addressed since that game. Playing better defense for the most part. Last couple of weeks we haven't been that sharp on D, but made the plays in this past game when we had to, got the stop that we had to have.
Well, and the guy, here's the deal. Like, as a quarterback, when you throw a pick like Cam Rising did late in the Florida game, that can be deflating, and it can hang over you the whole year, and yet he's bounced back. And the way he played in that game on Saturday was outstanding. Coach, I can't remember a performance like that at quarterback for you guys. I mean, he was sensational. And would you take me into your decision to go for 2 at the end? Did it have everything to do with the way Cam was specifically playing?
It did. And then, of course, USC had been very potent on offense all during the course of the game. And as we took that possession and took the drive over at 6 minutes or so to go in the game, I told Andy, offensive coordinator Andy Lubbock, at the onset of that drive that, hey, when we score, depending on clock situation, if it's well under a minute, we're going for 2 and trying to put this thing away. So have a 2-point play in mind. If we're able to score and there was, more than that, a couple minutes left or whatever, then it was going to be a single point conversion for obvious reasons. But that decision had been made at the beginning of the drive. When we did score, it was about 45 seconds left in the game. So we made the call that we, had already discussed to go for the 2-pointer.
I love it. And it's one of the reasons why I've always loved covering your teams is because you're decisive and you believe in your players, and it's one of the things that I don't know if a lot of coaches do around the country, to be honest with you. And I cover a lot of teams, but I will tell you, that's one of the things I've always respected the most about you is that you will put faith in your players and in kind of the chemistry and overall product that you put out there as a program. And I think that came to fruition on Saturday night.
I think it did, and putting the ball in Cam Rising's hands is always a good thing for us. And,
that's right.
And to give him that option to find something open in the route structure or tuck it and run, we feel like our percentages were with us in that scenario.
Well, you get the win, and it was an epic environment, certainly. Now, I've argued that we need to do away with divisions, and now here you are in the Pac-12, and you've done away with divisions. From your standpoint, do you think that that's going to be beneficial, and do you feel like you just kind of control your own destiny now because of the way that this structure is going to play out, top 2 teams in the conference championship game?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing overall for what we want to accomplish, and that's access to the CFP, and that the opportunity to have guarantees the opportunity to have your 2 best teams play each other for that championship, and so it makes sense in that regard. I think right now there's 4 teams that are in really good position. Any of the 4 could win this thing. If crazy things happen, there might be more teams that get involved in the race. But right now there's 4 teams with 1 loss or less, 1 conference loss or less, and so it seems to be a 4-horse race at the present time. But there's so many teams that have elevated themselves this year in the Pac-12, particularly the middle tier of teams from years past seem to be much improved and able to beat pretty much anybody on any given Saturday. So we'll see how things transpire. But like I said, right here, right now, it's a 4-team situation.
Well, listen, you guys have played well. I put you inside of my top 10, and I might be biased here, Coach, but I will just tell you as we kind of leave. I think you're one of the most underrated coaches out there. You've built something really special at Utah, and you should be commended. And I will also tell you this, and I probably shouldn't, but that's all right. There's a handful of coaches out there in America that if my son were ever good enough to play college football, I'd be like, yep, you can go play for him. You're one of those guys. And I respect the way that you do it. Thank you for the way that you coach your players and that you've built that program because it's fun to watch.
Well, I appreciate that. And when you have good players with high character, good things happen.
There's no doubt. All right, Coach, thank you so much for your time, bud. Good luck the rest of the year.
Okay, Joel, take care. Thanks for having me on.
There he goes, Kyle Whittingham on his bye week. And when we come back, we will finish things out here on Breaking the Huddle. All right, welcome back in. Let's get to a little Klattback here. Check out what's going on these Twitter streets. And listen, there's a lot. There's a lot of opinions out there. Let's get to them. Let's check out what's going on. All right, Kevin says, LOL, seriously, Joel, Hooker played well, sure, but had a late fumble that almost cost him the game. Then really got lucky that Bama missed a field goal late. He played well, yes, but also played bad late. That could have cost them the game. Stroud has been elite and consistent. Okay, so Kevin is clearly talking about the fact that I said, hey, look at Hendon Hooker. He's put himself right up there, maybe even in the lead for the Heisman Trophy race at this point. And I don't quite understand the argument. I mean, he was amazing in a game in which they won. He's the reason that they won the game. I get it. The exchange and the fumble exchange is not a good look. I've always said that the exchange is the quarterback's responsibility, and if he would have lost, he would have fallen down. But the fact remains is that he went back on the field after Alabama. He's got no control over the missed field goal. He went back on the field and promptly went right down the field, making unbelievable throws, and they won the game. He's the reason that they won the game. He was the best player that Tennessee had. He's putting up great numbers. He's clearly one of the best players in college football. And because of the performance on that stage, yes, he's going to be in that position. You just can't argue that Stroud has to be somehow, head and shoulders above him right now when Stroud hasn't played anybody. Like, that's not how it works. I'm sorry. That's not born in reality, Kevin. So sorry, Brosif. Next up. Let's see, this Georgia fan, what is this? DRO, I guess, Dro, whatever you want to call it, says, please hush already. Ohio State had 3 elite wide receivers last year and got beat by, I think he's trying to say, Michigan. We don't want to hear it. Okay, listen, this Ohio State team is different than last year's Ohio State team. Last year's Ohio State team did not play great defense, and quite frankly, they run the ball better this year, and they're better on their offensive line, and they're more deep at the running back position with Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams. So this is just a different and better Ohio State team, and if you can't see that, then I'm sorry. By the way, their wide receivers are elite. I think C.J. Stroud is a better version of himself, and the defense makes them a much more bona fide title contender. So listen, I understand you're a Georgia guy. You understand defense, right? Because you won a title basically on your defense last year. Well, guess what? Ohio State is the top in the top 10 in scoring defense, total defense, passing defense, rushing defense, yards per play defense. What more do you want? All right. It's not just about their 3 wide receivers. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Thank you for watching. Love doing this show. Check out the game this Saturday. Gus, Jenny, and I will be at Ohio State as they take on Iowa on Big Noon Saturday. Remember, this show, as always, is brought to you by Dr. Pepper. It is the one fans deserve.